Today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I am streaming to you from Budapest, capital city of Hungary, here in Central Europe, the crossroads of the European continent. I hope everybody has had a great week. Hi, Carolina Asanio. Hi, Shonam Choden. Hi, Kyber. Good to see many of you in class. Students, today it's an IELTS listening for Band 9 class. We are continuing with listening section 3 and 4 from our second exam book from yesterday. So if you were in yesterday's class and did sections 1 and 2, that's great. If not, it's still fine. You can do these sections on their own. Hi, Hung. Good to see a member in class. Again, these materials are coming from our websites, aehelp.com, for the academic version of the exam, and gieltshelp.com for the general version of the test. So check out those websites, sign up for our premium package to get 6 original practice exams, over 100 hours of HD video content, as well as a fully interactive course that we will use today for the audio. Students, we do have a new speaking interview video with a candidate from India. Check that out if you haven't seen it yet. Carolina, if you were here yesterday, that's great. Kyber, same thing. Hang on to those scores. We'll be able to check your total listening band score at the end of today's class. Questions, comments, concerns about our products or the exam, just send me an email, Adrian, A-D-R-I-A-N, at aehelp.com. You can also get our books that we use in the classes in digital paperback version from Amazon. Search for these titles, AE Helps Academic IELTS or GE Helps General IELTS. Today, listening, and tomorrow we have some more classes for our members. We will have a question and answer session, and then we will have part 2 speaking for everybody at the same time tomorrow as well. All right. Hi, Ferdovs. Good to see you being studious. Amarjeet, same thing in this class as well. Fantastic. We had a nice report from Marwa that he reached his needed band scores, which was good to hear. All right. Let's get into listening, students. So we're continuing on with section 3. Section 3, section 4, more challenging, okay? More challenging topics, usually dialogues. I'm going to play the audio in just a moment. Please write down your answers on a piece of paper or in a separate document or in a text file. Don't put them in the chat. Don't be rude to your peers or fellow students. Let them answer on their own. We will give the answers together. Chongmin, never give up. Keep pushing forward. Your brain is a learning machine. All right, so here we go, students. I'm going to play the audio for section 3. Pay attention. This is a dialogue with some challenging accents from New Zealand. First, I'm going to log in. This is our academic IELTS website. Once you have the premium package, by clicking that red button, you can log in to your student account up at the top there. And after you're logged in, you have access to lots of resources, including these listening audio materials. So here we go. Volume is max on my end, so if it's quiet on your end, please turn up the volume and or use a headset. Here we go.
Now turn to section 3. Take some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Listening Section 3. You will hear a panel discussion on the ethics of zoos. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Welcome everyone to this very special evening. Tonight's speakers are two distinguished scholars. Dr. Henry Gergen from the University of Edinburgh is a philosopher and animal rights advocate. Dr. Gloria Mesto from Trinity College Dublin is an animal conservationist. Welcome to you both. The topic of tonight's discussion is the ethics of zoos. Here is the fundamental question. Is it right to house animals in zoos, or should they live freely in nature instead?
As an animal rights advocate and theorist, I have clear views on this question. To me, it is fundamentally wrong to lock up animals for human enjoyment. I believe that in many important respects, animals are persons and should be afforded many of the rights that human beings have. Chief among these is the right to liberty and the freedom to achieve one's desired ends in life. Clearly, these rights are abrogated by imprisonment within the zoo. Moreover, in many cases, animals in zoos are treated inhumanely and are subject to confinement in extremely small spaces. While regulation of zoos may help mitigate some of these problems, I maintain that zoos are fundamentally unethical.
I certainly understand Dr. Gergen's position, and I do agree on some of his points, most notably that zoos must be held to higher standards of animal treatment than they are currently. But my colleague fails to consider an important point in favor of zoos. The conservation of species is an incredibly important endeavor, and zoos are on the front line in the battle to save hundreds of species of animals around the world. Zoos often employ some of the leading experts in the field who are best equipped to carry out this important task. It is for this reason that I believe zoos are justified. Though they may not be perfect, I believe zoos and the experts they employ play a critical role in the conservation of species and therefore are ethically permissible.
Dr. Gergen, do you have a rebuttal to that point?
Yes, certainly. While I appreciated Dr. Mester's position as a conservationist, and I do appreciate the work she and others like her do for animal welfare around the world, I must disagree with her. While zoos certainly do play a role in animal conservation, it is not because they are zoos that they play this role.
Dr. Gergen, can you clarify that point for the audience?
Of course. What I mean is this. It is not inherent in the idea of a zoo that they conserve animals. The notions are separable. You can have an animal conservation effort that is not a zoo, just as you can have a zoo that has nothing to do with conservation. So while it is true that some zoos act as animal preserves, this does not justify the existence of zoos, since we could easily separate out these animal preserves from zoos themselves.
Fair point, but such animal preserves would still have the associated problems of poor treatment and unsuitable living conditions.
Yes, but at least it would be in an effort towards a positive end. The animals would not be captive forever, and they would not be captive merely for a human audience.
You now have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen to the rest of the interview and answer questions 27 to 30.
What about the enjoyment and education that zoos provide, especially to young people? Perhaps individuals like yourselves were inspired to become animal advocates by attending a zoo when you were a child.
That is a really interesting point. I was indeed inspired by going to a zoo when I was a child. What do you think, Dr. Gergen?
It is an interesting thought. What if the positive outcomes caused by inspiring people like us to do good in the future outweigh the harms done to zoo animals? I'm not sure. I would have to think about it more, but it's certainly an interesting question.
Well, thank you. I'll take that as a compliment. In closing, I'm not sure how much progress we've made, but is it safe to say that we can all agree that zoos, at the very least, must do their best to improve the treatment of animals and the conditions in which the animals live?
I would certainly agree with that, as I'm sure my friends would also agree.
That is the end of section 3. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
And again, in that half minute, always check your answers. Students, catch spelling mistakes, or if you did not pay careful attention to 2 or 3 word answers or other instructions, that 30 seconds is your opportunity to catch those easy marks. All right, let's answer these questions together. So here we go. Question 21, match the professor with the university that they're from. This is kind of an easier question that leads you into this challenging listening section 3. So number 1, Dr. Henry Gergen, is he from University of Edinburgh or Trinity College Dublin? Pachu says for this one, number 1 is A, number 2 is B. Now, this is a little bit tricky in your answer sheet. So remember that here, you're looking at question 21. So in your answer sheet, okay, when you're transferring this answer from the question booklet, what you need to do is 1A to B, just like that, okay? So that's how you get the full point for question 21. You have to get both of them correct. Of course, if you have 1, if you know that this is A, which I can see that Amarjeet, Sukarab, Thuili, Zainab, Lamiz, Sonam, Khyber, you all got those correct. Charlie Sen, Jack Cow, good job. And it's a 50-50. So if you got this one correct, you got that one correct, obviously. So it's 1 mark, 1 question, 1A, 2B, just like that, okay? I definitely recommend using capital letters, so big A, big B, if you can, all right? Okay. All right, so let's keep going. Question 22 to 24. Again, one of those kind of tricky questions where you have to choose multiple answers for these. Okay, so this is kind of like a complex multiple choice question. You have questions 22 to 24. That means on your answer sheet, again, you will have 3 spaces to fill out. 22, 23, 24. Now, it says in the question in any order, so the order really doesn't matter here. You just have to catch the right answers. Okay? So what were some of those right answers? Khyber says A, D, and F. Sukarab agrees. Hung says it's A, B, and F. Chunni says D, E, and A. So D is obviously a very popular answer. A seems to be the other very popular answer. Argument against zoos. Okay, so it's against zoos. Pay attention, of course, to the question. The animals are treated inhumanely. Yes, that was emphasized. So A is definitely 1 point. Animals are persons. Okay. B. Yep. That was given. So the speaker compares animals to people. So he says animals are like people. Okay. So you can't just put them in a zoo, just like you can't put people into a zoo. Okay. See, the conservation of species, we know that this is not possible because it's not against zoos. Conservation means protection. If you're learning new words, students, while we're doing the listening, make sure to write these down, okay, in your vocabulary booklet. Okay, make sure to write these down. All right. And the last one is F. They are fundamentally wrong. So if you got all three of these, then you picked up 3 points. This was a little bit trickier. If you didn't get that one, then you got 2 points, okay, for A and F. All right? So A and F. D, animals should not be in prison. That wasn't talked about. And we don't put animals into prisons. All right? Humans are placed into prison, not animals. So animals should not be in prison. They're not. I've never seen an animal in a prison before. I've seen animals in zoos, but not in a prison. A prison is where we keep criminals, right? All right. E, animals are human beings and should be treated equally. Too much detail. Okay. The speaker says that animals are persons, but the speaker doesn't say they should be treated equally. I don't know. I mean, I've seen an elephant in a bar in Thailand, but outside of that, we usually will not see a tiger sitting next to Aunt Sally at the local breakfast restaurant. That'd be kind of interesting. So careful with wording. Okay, students, careful with wording. All right. Okay, if you're not sure, again, if you're not sure, check the transcripts. You can look at the back of the book and check the transcripts if you're not sure. Remember that important tip from yesterday's class. So let's say that I'm like, oh, really? Where did B come from? I want to check that out. I don't believe, Adrian, that B is better than D or so on. Then we can jump to the back of the book. I'll quickly show it to you. In our books, you'll find this on page 115. There's track 3. And here we go. So notice the bold is where it's a little bit trickier for you to see it clearly, but notice the bold lettering. So it is fundamentally wrong to lock up animals for human enjoyment. So that's one of these 22 to 24. And then I believe that in many important respects, animals are persons and should be afforded many of the rights human beings have. So many of the rights and their many important respects are persons, but not every. They're not equal. Okay? All right. And here, moreover, in many cases, animals in zoos are treated inhumanely. So there's 1, 2, 3 from the transcripts, okay? Again, you can check the transcripts if you're not sure. Don't just skip over questions that you get wrong. One of the worst habits that I see many students make when they're getting ready for their IELTS exam is they do a listening test every day. They check their marks. They say, oh, I got, 25 out of 40, or oh, I got 27 from 40. And then they never check the wrong answers. They never look to see why they got those wrong. Where are the correct answers coming from? What is the reason or the logic behind it? So students, please, instead of jumping around like a squirrel that's had too much maple syrup, stop yourself. Look at your wrong answers, check them, understand why they're wrong, look at the transcripts, okay? So this is a tip. Okay, it's a study tip. It is very important to get feedback on wrong answers in the listening section when you prepare for the IELTS exam. Use the transcripts in the back of the book to help you. Okay, super important to do that. All right, Let's get back to our questions. We'll keep going forward. We'll surge forward. We'll push forward. Here we go. So these were fill in the blanks here. Okay. 25 to 27. Write no more than 2 words and or a number. All right, for each answer. In order to improve the conditions for zoo animals, zoos must be held to what? What's the answer? It's no more than 2 words. Something of animal treatment. Hung says higher standards. Kyber agrees. Ashwin agrees. Lanthiu agrees. When there's that much agreement, in most cases, you're right. These are just standard words. You don't need to capitalize them. They're in the middle of the sentence. It is higher standards. It's a plural. Higher standards of animal treatment. Good. If you got that, great. Pay attention to spelling. When you transfer the answer to the answer sheet, double check to make sure that it's correct. 26. While zoos do conserve animal life, Dr. Gergen argues that this function could also be performed by animal something. By animal what? Now, this is a place where animals run around in an open area, but they are fenced away, so they're protected from hunters and maybe predators. And that open area, that big land, kind of like a nature park, is called an animal preserve, as Kyber has correctly shared with us. And you can write all big letters like Kyber has done. So animal preserves. Okay? Animal preserves. Okay, watch your plurals here, students. So here, we know it's preserves because it's not an. Okay, there's no an there. If it was performed by an animal preserve, then it would be one. But because it's by animal preserves and it's general, so it should be plural. Okay, preserves. All right. Enjoyment and something are 2 key positive attributes of zoos. Here you might be able to use your logic. So what do zoos give us? They give us enjoyment. We have fun. Hey, look at the tiger. Look at the elephant. Let's take some pictures. And we read those little signs about the animals. So when we read about the animals, we learn about the animals. And when we learn about the animals, Zainab says the word is education. Aline Ahmad agrees. Hung agrees. Thuile agrees as well. And you're all right. So enjoyment and education. Again, does not have to be a big E. This is a big E because it's the first letter in the sentence. Students, learn your punctuation rules, okay? Even though in the listening and reading sections, you can write all capital letters. For the task 1, task 2 writing, you should use correct punctuation. Okay? Sriramya is asking, can we write learning instead of education? I wouldn't suggest it. Education is a better word choice here, and it's exactly what they use. If you write learning, Sriramya, they might take it, but it's a little bit arguable that it's awkward and grammatically it's questionable. I know why you're asking it, and if you can't think of education, then definitely yes, put it in there. But if you can think of education, then use that instead. All right. Somebody's saying they can barely hear me. If anybody's having difficulty with the volume, let me know. Just want to make sure it's not on my end. All right. So enjoyment and education. are the correct answers. All right, let's take a look at questions 28 to 30. Okay. All right, sounds like everybody else can hear me, so it's got to be a technical issue on your side, my good man or good woman. I don't know. Can't read the Arabic. Okay, here we go. So questions 28 to 30. Choose the correct letters A, B, or C. So clearly multiple choice. All right. According to Dr. Gergen, does the value of inspiring young people outweigh the negative aspects of zoos? And Dr. Gergen says this very clearly. Dr. Gergen says, well, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that. So C is definitely the right answer. Yeah. So anybody who answered C, you are 100% correct. Okay. He's not sure. He's not sure. He says, I'm not sure. I'd have to think about that. And they say this. They say, oh, that is an interesting question. So what is the interesting question? They talk about it. Whether zoos are ethical, whether the inspirational value of zoos outweighs their negative aspects, whether enjoyment and inspiration negate the importance of zoos. 29, Vinay Vemreddy says B. Many others are saying B as well. And you're right, it is B. So this one is B. Yeah, basically they're like, well, zoos are bad, but people learn a lot about animals. So maybe learning about animals balances the negative sides of zoos, right? That's the interesting question is, are zoos in some ways just as valuable as they are bad? That's an interesting question. Okay, and then the last part coming much later on, what do the guests agree on? Zoo conditions need to be improved. Zoos are unethical. The inspirational value of zoos are unethical. So number 30. They say, well, and the host says, well, we can all agree that. Kyber Jan says A. Vinay says A. Amarjeet says A. Chungmin Yun says A as well. And you're right, it is A. The host says, I think we can all agree that zoo conditions need to be improved. If we're going to keep animals locked up, let's at least make sure they have a quality home, right? I think we can all agree on that. Logic will help you as well. Okay, the IELTS doesn't give you false information. They give you genuine, true information according to modern knowledge, theory, science. So if you think A is true, they would think that A is true also. All right, students, that's it for Section 3. Any questions about Section 3? Any questions about Section 3 or the listening until Section 3? So any questions about Section 1, 2, and 3? Gary Broad says, sometimes if we do not listen to the answer part, making an educated guess can help the right answer. Yes, absolutely, Gary Brar. Yeah, a lot of these answers are logical. In fact, Gary, I've completed a few IELTS exams, and I found that with good logic, about 40 to 50% of the answers in the listening can be figured out without listening. And the reading, it's the same. I don't suggest doing that, but it is possible. Okay? Emmanuel Okeke says, sir, are we allowed to jot down what the speakers are saying during their discussion? Yes, Emmanuel, you can. You can write whatever you want into your question booklet for the listening, but it's not a good idea to start jotting down notes because you're answering while you're listening. So you might actually miss the answer if you're focusing on writing everything down. And if you try to write down everything you hear in the 4 sections, you're going to really fatigue yourself. You will become extremely tired mentally. Okay? Chingmin's asking, I have a total of 6 scores so far, 6 points for Section 3, Chungmin. If you got 6 out of 10 for Section 3, it's okay. It's not bad. That should be your goal, is about 6, 7 for Section 3 and 4. Okay, that's what you should be aiming for. If you only got 3 out of 10, then you're kind of in trouble, Channe. 7 is not bad, Hung, Amarjeet. 7 is good, definitely. All right. Khyber, 9 is excellent for section 3. All right, students, then so far so good. Let's do section 4. So let's go on to section 4. Again, please do not write your answers into the answer sheet. Just write them down into a separate document or on a piece of paper. Again, volume for me is max, so if it's quiet for you, use a headset, turn up your volume. Here we go.
Battery 70%. Take some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Listening section 4. You will hear a professor discussing the migration of loggerhead turtles. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
It's late April on the South Atlantic coast of North America, and one of the most remarkable journeys in all of nature is about to begin. The loggerhead turtle, whose natural habitat is the open ocean, has to seek dry land to lay its eggs. The sandy beaches of Florida provide a perfect nesting spot, with soft sand that can be dug up by the persistent flippers of the female loggerhead. Over the course of the next 3 months, hundreds of thousands of eggs will be laid on such beaches. Many of these eggs will become the victim of predators, but many will survive to hatching, which occurs 2 months after being laid. Hatching marks the beginning of an incredible journey for the loggerhead turtle. Almost immediately upon hatching, the young turtles, known as hatchlings at this point, head for the open ocean. The ocean, while full of its own dangers and predators, provides a relative safe haven for the hatchlings away from many of the predators that live near the shoreline. These young turtles embark upon a journey that will take them upwards of 13,000 kilometers around the North Atlantic. Many animals make large and incredible journeys, but what makes the loggerhead turtle's migration so notable is the speed at which the animal moves. While many bird species make similar journeys, they move at velocities much faster than the loggerhead turtle. This slow-moving beast travels at the remarkably sluggish pace of only 3/4 of a kilometre per hour. This means it will take the turtle a minimum of 17,000 hours to complete its migratory journey, not even taking into account stops for feeding and sleep. To put that number in perspective, 17,000 hours is approximately 2 years of non-stop swimming. That the loggerhead turtle makes this journey alone makes it all the more impressive. From birth to adolescence to adulthood, the loggerhead turtle is a solitary traveller. But how does it know where to go? Doesn't it need a parent to help it know the route? This is where the loggerhead becomes even more fascinating. Recent research tells us the loggerhead uses the magnetic field of the Earth to determine its migration route. Because the Earth's magnetic field differs in each location around the world, the loggerhead turtle can use it as a kind of innate roadmap, illuminating the way to where they need to be. One example of this is the behaviour they exhibit when they encounter the particular magnetic field off the coast of Portugal. Instead of continuing north towards the cold waters of northern Europe, they sense the magnetic field and turn around, instead heading for the warmer waters of northwestern Africa. And it is not just that the loggerhead turtle has a sort of innate compass. They are able to determine, with surprising precision, their latitude and longitude. They know exactly when to zig and zag to optimize their migratory pattern. Even with their incredible ability to know where they are and where they need to be, the survival rate of migratory loggerhead turtles is incredibly low. In fact, only about 1 in 4,000 hatchlings makes it back to the beach in eastern Florida to mate and lay its eggs. However, that any make it at all is an incredible achievement and one of the great natural wonders of navigation.
That is the end of section 4. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
And again, make sure to check those answers before transferring them to the answer sheet. You have 10 minutes after this to transfer the answers to the answer sheet, at which time you should be looking for spelling mistakes, logic mistakes, using that time wisely. Section 4 has no breaks. You have to answer all 10 questions in one fell swoop. Let's do this together. So about the loggerhead turtle. The loggerhead turtle, of course, is that very beautiful big sea creature that's got this shell. And it's got this nice little head, maybe a smile, little eyeballs. And it's got these flippers. Sharks love to eat them. I think humans eat them as well sometimes. Finding Nemo, they're traveling in groups, but as we learned, they travel alone. All right, the first question here is the sandy beaches of, so the loggerhead turtle seeks dry land to lay its eggs, the sandy beaches of Florida. So Lanthiu, Pachu, thank you Pachu for complimenting my drawing. I was hoping that it wasn't going to embarrass all the loggerhead turtles out there. Amarjeet, Charlie Sen. Yeah, Florida. Now, Florida is a place. It's a southeastern state in the U.S., United States. You have to spell it with a capital F. If you have a small f, that will be wrong. Okay? It's a location. All right. After hatching, the loggerhead turtle immediately heads for the ocean. The ocean is safer than the shore because it has fewer what? For number 32. I'm seeing a whole bunch of other answers for other questions, but I'm looking for 32. Predators, make sure to spell that correctly. It is spelled as Predators. Predators. Okay? Predators. Chung Min, I don't think they will take the word enemies. Sharks don't hate the turtle. They're not the enemy. Okay? They just think that the turtle's delicious, so they want to eat them. They don't hate them. The word enemy, Chung Min, means that there's hatred, there's animosity, there's anger towards another. So animals are prey predator because there's no hatred. So saying enemies, it's a little bit awkward. Technically, it's incorrect. Okay. All right. The turtles embark on a journey that will take them something kilometers around the Atlantic. How far will they go around the Atlantic Ocean? Kawaljeet Kaur Kawal says it'll take them 13,000 clicks. Kyber Lan, the Amarjeet, Charlie all seem to agree. Yeah, you can do it with a comma. So you can do it as 13,000. Okay, 13,000, that's correct. Or you can do it without the comma. That's okay as well. You don't have to have the comma. They're both fine. All right. Florida predators and 13,000. Please don't write the word 13,000, okay? You might make a spelling mistake and then lose an easy mark. So don't do that. Okay. Let's take a look at the next questions here. So while long migratory journeys are fairly commonplace in nature, what makes loggerhead's journey especially notable is the extremely what? Pace that it travels at. Pace is another way to say speed or tempo. Speed or tempo. Nargiza, very good. Nargiza, you caught the exact word. It was sluggish. Sluggish or slow is okay. Anybody know what a slug is? What is a slug? Can anybody tell me that for a little bit of a bonus point? What is a slug? Where does this word slug come from? Not sloth, but a slug. Reese Taylor says it's a kind of a snail. Yeah, it's a snail without a house. Okay, so this animal is a slug. This animal, if anybody watches SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob's best friend Gary, that one has a house. That one is called a snail. Okay? So, snail, no home, no house, poor little guy. Slug. All right? Slug. I don't think it's an insect, Hung. I don't think slugs and snails belong to the insect family. All right, so you have the verb sluggish coming from this word slug. Now, in fact, the word slug in English has several different definitions. It's also a type of bullet for the gun. It's also the meaning to punch. Okay, punching means slugging. If you see two boxers that are just punching each other and everybody's getting beaten up, we call that a slug fest. A slug fest. So lots of different meanings for the word slug. Look it up in the dictionary. I think you'll find at least 3, maybe more definitions, and they're all kind of different, which is interesting. Okay, so a few different definitions for slug. Okay. The entire journey is equal to approximately something of continuous swimming with no drawings. Amira, I love how you got a little emoji snail up there. That's great. It is 2 years, okay? And you can do that as a number. Okay, 2 years of continuous swimming. You could even do it as an abbreviation. They'll take it. Okay, that's the fastest way to write 2 years. It's even faster than this. Okay, slowest way to write it is like this. Now, because section 4 is fast and continuous, I recommend that way. Okay, you can still, when you transfer your answers, if you want to be fancy, you can still rewrite this as this. All right, just a few more questions to go. So continuing with this summary, as incredible as the loggerhead turtle's journey is, what makes it even more impressive is that the loggerhead is a something traveler traversing the open ocean on its own for years at a time. It is indeed Ashwin Kashyapan, a solitary traveler or a solo traveler. Both are okay. Solitary means alone, or solo means alone. Both of those mean alone. They'll take both. Okay. Solitary, solo, both are okay. Lanthu says solid traveler. Yeah, they are, but that's not what the audio says. So Lanthu, I agree with you. They're a solid traveler. They're really traveling for a whole 2 years, but that's not the word they used. I love the expression, the Lanthu. Solid. So solitary or solo traveler. Okay, keep that in mind. Means alone. You know when somebody is bad in prison, so we just had that zoo topic. If you have an inmate, a person who is in prison, a criminal, they behave badly. So the prison guards, they throw that person into a little hole and lock them in a dark room, in a dark hole for a couple days by themselves. That's called solitary confinement. Solitary confinement. That's what happens when a person is punished and put into a locked room by themselves. It's called solitary confinement. Okay, keep that in mind. All right. Scientific research has, in recent years, told us that it is through a connection with the Earth's something that the turtle finds their way around the ocean. Monica, yeah, that is a correct sentence. I'm a solitary traveler. Yeah, you can say that. Sure. Zainab says it is the magnetic field. Nargiza agrees, and I agree with you. The Earth's magnetic field. that the turtles find their way around the ocean. Yeah, absolutely. So they are in tune with the magnetic field to know where they are. For example, the turtles are able to sense something off the coast of somewhere that makes them change their direction and go from Northwest Africa or head towards Northwest Africa. And that is the country of Portugal. That's right, Lanthiu and Hung. It is the country of Portugal. So they're swimming and swimming and swimming from Florida all the way to Portugal. Just imagine swimming from Florida to Portugal. Wow, that's a swim and a half. And then when they get to Portugal, they're like, oh, wait a second. Something's not feeling right. My shell is tingling. I'm going to do a little 180 here and go down south to Africa for warmer waters. Cool. All right. Possessing more than a simple compass, the loggerhead can innately sense its something and longitude. What can it sense? It senses this inside. Charlie senses latitude and longitude. Yeah. Latitude and longitude. Students, just so you're clear on what that actually means, those are good words to learn. Here is the Earth, okay? We have imaginary lines that divide the Earth this way and ones that divide the Earth this way, okay? These are the latitude, and these are the longitude, okay? Lateral, latitude, meaning from east to west, and longitude, meaning the long from north to south, okay? So know the names of those. They could save your life if you're ever lost in the forest or out at sea, okay? Knowing longitude and latitude are two survival words in English, just like fire, help, save me, okay? Make sure you know those words. Those words can save your life, all right? Keep that in mind. All right. If you're lost in the forest or you're lost out at sea, you have GPS. Someone might ask you in English, what's your latitude? What's your longitude? Okay, what's your coordinates? Okay. All right. Here we go. Last question. 40. Approximately what percentage of hatchlings, so the little baby turtles, make it back to the breeding ground in Florida? 0.025%, 2.5%, or 25%? And many of you say it's A. Yes, it is A. Okay, so A is the correct answer. Why? Because the speaker says 1 in 4,000, and 1 in 4,000, simple math, is equal to 0.025%, right? Oh, that's pretty bad. A lot of them perish, poor little guys. But that's life, that's nature. She's cruel at times. So 1 in 4,000 is 2.5%. If you can't figure it out because you're nervous when you're listening, write this down, and then you can do the math after in the 10-minute time to transfer answers to the answer sheet. Okay? All right, students, so that's the answers for sections 3 and sections 4. Count up your scores. Add up your total raw score from 40. So count what you got from yesterday's and today's class. What did you get from 40? Now, once you have that magical number, you can go to either of our websites, the general or the academic. At the very bottom of the website, you will see this option here. You can click on it, called a score calculator. Our newest app will have this feature as well. So you see that score calculator, you just open that up, and then the score calculator will give you an option for the reading and the listening section. Make sure you're in the right one. So notice here that we have the listening, how much out of 40, and the reading, make sure you're going into the right box. It's your raw score there. And then you put it in there and it will give you your band score. So quick calculator. Hung says 25. Hung, 25 is a band score of 6. Okay. Kyber says 36. 36 is a band score of 8. Buzzy Fash says, I got 15 out of 20. Lanthu says 16 out of 20. That's for today's section. Section 1 and 2 are a little bit easier. Okay. Taylor Reese says 37. 37 is an 8.5, so 36 is the cutoff. Ashwin says 31. It's a 7. Amarjeet says 23. Amarjeet, that's a 6. Okay. You can see those come up as the calculator's working its little magic. Abdullah, 39 is a 9. Okay, if you only got one wrong, it's a 9, or a 40 is a 9. 30 is a band 7. All right, students, so you can figure that out. Chung Min Yoon says 14. That's going to be pretty low. It's a 4.5 for 14. Okay. All right, students, so that is where you can check out your score on our website. Again, academic IELTS is aehelp.com, so you can join our premium course there by clicking this big red button, and we have a fully integrated app coming up next week for that as well. For general IELTS, you can check us out at gieltshelp.com. Click that big red button there. Thank you so much, students, for hanging in there on today's difficult listening section 3 and 4. Give yourselves a good old-fashioned pat on the back. Good job. All right, be proud of yourself. Tomorrow, members, question and answer session followed by speaking part 2 cue card practice and strategy for everyone. That's it for today. Beautiful people, beautiful brains. Believe in yourselves, push forward, conquer the world around you, and enjoy life. Much love to all of you. Bye for now.